Yo, what's going on? I hope you're doing alright. My name's Collier, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to make 7 essential chord progressions for 7 different emotions, including happy, sad, angry, confident, nostalgic, and a few others. Then I'm going to go over a few tips to help you take those chords to the next level to get maximum emotion out of them. After that, I'm going to show you where you can get almost 9,000 MIDI files, including 140 chord progressions, for free so that you never struggle with chords again. And lastly, as always, if you stick around to the end of the video, I got something for you that I'm sure will help speed up your workflow crazy so you can make the music that you want even faster. Let's get it. Okay, the first chord progression I'm doing gives off angry or aggressive kind of vibes. Keep in mind, sound selection is just as important as the notes that you play. For this sound, you want something that has like a little bit of a fast tempo, something simple and repetitive. You want to have a lot of movement and energy so you can give listeners the feeling of intense rage or passion or dark epicness. You'll want to play your instruments at a higher velocity. For this melody, we're in the key of E minor. Here we're using a 1-1-4 progression. Okay, so first I'm gonna let you hear it. So since we're working in the E minor, that is the scale that I have highlighted on my grids right here. So if you don't know how to make a chord, the easiest way is go to this little drop down arrow, go to stamp, and find the scale that you want to make chords in. For this video, I'm gonna find the minor scale, and then I'm gonna find E, and I'm gonna stamp my minor scale right on the outside of this E. Since we're working with the 1-1-4 chord progression, I'm gonna use the first note in this scale, which is an E. I'm gonna use that twice, and then I'm gonna count up, and I'm gonna drag this A across. In order to build out my chord progression, I'm just gonna place a note every other note in the scale. Musically, I'm adding the 3rd and the 5th. I'm just gonna space out these chords a little bit so I can get the bounce that I want. Now, we don't want to just leave it there. We're going to make it a little bit more interesting. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this G and I'm going to put it to an A, making this a sus4 chord. And to darken up my chords a little bit, I'm just going to drop this E down 1 octave. Strumming and randomizing your chords is essential when it comes to adding life and a little bit of swing to your melodies. I'm playing this at a medium to high velocity just to get all the energy from those notes. And then I'm gonna split this chord right here just to add a little bit more energy to the chord progression. Now, this chord progression may not sound all that great, but if I add just a few extra items, we get this. Alright, the next chord progression gives sad, lonely, or depressed vibes. Usually you want to go with a slower kind of tempo, space out your notes, and play the instruments at like a soft to medium velocity. Simple top melodies go a long way. This will give off a feeling of loneliness or coldness. This chord progression is in the key of E major, and it's a 4-5-2 chord progression. Here's what it sounds like. So once again, I went to stamp and I got my major chord and I put it right on the E. So this is the E major scale. So this chord progression is a 4-5-2. So I'm just going to count up the scale to the 4th note. Then I'm going to drag the 5th note and the 2nd note of the scale across. Now I'm going to build these chords out by adding the 3rd and 5th note of these chord progressions. Now in its basic sound, it sounds like this. Which is decent, but we can do better. I'm gonna take this C sharp, drag it down to a B, making this a sus2 chord. Then in this 3rd chord, I'm gonna just add the 7th. I'm gonna take this B and I'm gonna copy it up an octave. And then to give this chord progression some body, I'm just going to copy the root note A down 2 octaves and I'm gonna make it really bassy. I'm gonna do the same with the root note for the second chord and the third chord. Now if I had a vocal, a pad, and a bass, Alright, the next chord is a determined or confident kind of vibe. This tempo could be slow or it could have like a little bit of pace to it. Simple melodies work well. You can play instruments at almost any velocity with this sound. If you play them at a higher velocity, you tend to give off a more stronger presence in the chord progression. We are in the key of A sharp major. Here's our determined chord progression. Okay, so here's my A sharp major scale, and this is a 2-5-6-1 chord progression. So I'm just gonna count 2, 5, 6, and 1. Then I'm just gonna build these chords out, adding the third and the fifth, and we get this. This isn't too bad, but I really want you to feel it, so let's spice it up a little bit. First off, I want these chords to be a little bit darker, so I'm going to take the top 2 notes on these chords, and I'm going to drop them an octave down. I'm going to do the same with this F. I'm going to steal this F just to make the chord a little bit darker. Then I'm just going to take notes from these chords to make a bass line. The bass notes really help to add depth to your sample and really get people in their feels. Now you just add a couple sounds and you get this. The next feeling is ecstasy or euphoria, or like a calm and relaxed kind of sound. Typically you want this sound to be a little slow, just kind of taking it easy. Play the instruments at a soft to medium velocity. This will help the listener to feel calm or at peace. Here's my D minor scale, and we're gonna do a 5-6-5-6 chord progression. I'm gonna go to the 5th note in this scale. I'm gonna drag that over, and then I'm gonna drag the 6th over too. For this sound, I'm going to add a 7th note, so all you got to do is skip the 6th, put it on the 7th note. The root note and the 7th, you can actually put throughout the chord progression, and it would sound good in just about every chord. I'm going to drag this C up just to make the chord sound a little bit more wider in dynamic range. I'm going to take a few bass notes from the notes of the chord progression. And just to add a little variation, I'm going to take that C and I'm going to drag it down for the second part of the chord progression. Now let me play you a sample using this chord progression. The next emotion is energetic or happy vibes. For this sound, speed up the tempo a little bit, add a little bit of movement and energy in the melody. Simple melodies are good, but you could kind of get away with a little complicated melody here. This will help to give off a feeling of being alive and full of energy. We are in the key of C sharp major. Here we're using a 4-5-6-3 chord progression. Here's what it sounds like. Here's my C sharp scale. Let's build this chord progression. I'm gonna take the root notes I'm just going to go ahead and copy them down, make them my bass notes. And then I'm going to add the third and the fifth to each one of these chords. I'm going to invert these top notes, and here's what it sounds like in a beat. This next chord progression gives off a feeling of nostalgia, like you've been here before, or kind of like when you're remembering something from your childhood. For this sound, the tempo should be kind of slow. You can play this at a hard or soft velocity. Your melody can be a little complicated, but try to tell a story with it so it could give the listener a feeling of remembering a memory. For this chord progression, we're in an E minor. Here we're using a 1-5-6-5 chord progression. Here's what it sounds like. All right, here's my E minor scale. I'm going to take the first note, the fifth note, the sixth note, and the fifth note again. I'm going to add the third and the fifth, and then we have this. You can also add notes to the bottom. This will change the root note of your chord. So when I add this C here, it just makes this chord a C major ninth chord. Now I'm going to drop this C down an octave. I'm going to use it as my bass note. To darken this first chord, I'm going to drop the top two notes down an octave. For the second chord, I'm going to drop the whole chord down an octave, and then I'm going to take the top note and the bass note, and I'm going to drop those down an octave. For the third chord, I'm going to drop it down an octave, and then I'm going to take this root note and I'm going to make it a bass note. The fourth chord, I'm going to drop down an octave as well, and then I'm going to take this B and make it a bass note. Now I'm going to put y'all onto a little game right here. You can almost always swap out a minor chord for a major chord as long as the root note is the same. To do that, all I got to do is take this D and make it a D sharp. My seventh, that A at the top of the chord, that's from my minor chord, and I'm just going to leave that there just because the seventh usually sounds good throughout the chord progression. Let's hear what that sounds like. Now, I'm not going to bore you with the details of why this works, but just think of it as a really funky suspended chord. All right, now let's hear this in context with some other instruments. All right, this next chord progression is a feeling of suspense, terror, or panic. You can play this one slow or fast. You can use a hard or soft velocity, it doesn't really matter. Energy and movement usually works pretty well with this kind of sound. Simple and repetitive melodies kind of give the listeners a feeling of being trapped or uneasy, so those work well here. We are in the key of B minor. This is a 1-5-6-5 chord progression. It sounds like this. Starting off, we have our B minor scale right here. It's a 5-1-5 chord progression, so I'm going to take the fifth note of this scale, the first note, the fifth note, and then the first note again. Then I'm just going to build these chords out. In its bass form, it sounds like this. And that's okay, but let's make it a lot better. I'm going to shift this A up to a B and make it a sus4 chord. For a little variation, I'm going to drag this F sharp up an octave. And then I'm just going to add these two B notes just to make it a little bit darker. Now, all we got to do now is just add a couple of sounds and we get something that sound like this. Now, if you liked any of those chord progressions that I was just using, I got good news. They come from the free version of my new Bassist MIDI chord pack, but more on that later. If you liked any of those samples I made, you could get all of them free in my Mood sample pack right now at theloopsource.com. They are royalty free even if you get a major placement, stems and MIDI included, BPM and key labeled. I'll leave a link in the description. So unfortunately, I can't teach you how every chord is made because my music theory isn't all that great. But what I can do is I can put you onto this MIDI pack that's absolutely free that you could get right now that has just about every chord that you could ever imagine. It has over 140 chord progressions in it, and they're updating it regularly, so they're still adding more stuff to it. It's called the SHLD Midi chord pack. It's 100% free, and it's easily the largest MIDI pack that I have on my hard drive. And the best part about MIDI is you could have all those files, and it's only going to take up a small amount of space on your computer. This pack is super easy to find, but just in case, I'll include a link in the description. You gotta go get it. Hey, if you're getting anything out of this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. I've dedicated this channel to helping producers level up faster and faster and letting them know about resources that they can use in their production right now to elevate their productions quickly. I work really hard on these videos and I really appreciate the support that I've been getting so far. Okay, so I gotta be real with you. The SHLD MIDI chord pack is awesome, right? It is. But it still can be a problem from producers that don't know music theory. You have over 140 chord progressions and all these chords, but when you go through the pack, all you see is a bunch of Roman numerals, minor, major chords, and all these different kind of progressions. But if you don't know what you're looking for, then you could be searching for hours for something that you're trying to find. You could learn what all those chords mean, but how long would that take? Or you could be like me and just drag and drop random MIDI chord progressions until you find the one that you're kind of looking for. These are problems that I had with MIDI packs too, and I could never find the exact vibe I was going for because I didn't know what I was looking for. And that's why I created Bassist. Bassist is an essential MIDI chord pack with 190 chord progressions. But here's the thing that separates Bassist from any MIDI chord pack you've ever seen before. All the chord progressions are sorted by emotion, genre, and vibe. So if you wanted to make a neo-soul type beat, you could do that in minutes. If I wanted a sad chord progression, it's not a problem at all. If I wanted an inspiring or an epic chord progression, Bassist has that too. And it's not only good as a MIDI chord pack, you can also use it as the start of your stash. So whenever you come across a chord progression that you like, you can just save it in the appropriate folder and then you can use it later on. There's also a free version of Bassist that you can get right now at theloopsource.com. Everything in this pack is royalty free as always. Just so you know, all the chord progressions that I used in this video are included in the free version of Bassist, so you could download them as soon as you're done watching this video at theloopsource.com and get to work. The link is in the description. I really hope you got something out of this video today that you could use to speed up your workflow and make the music that you want faster. Once again, I go by Collier. Definitely go get the SHLD MIDI pack, and then also go check out theloopsource.com and get Moods and Bassist. That's my time, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks for watching.